Welcome back to a podcast. Today is episode 43, recapping the Iowa game, previewing the game versus Indiana, and any other discussion items today. And today is just two of your hosts. It's me, Jason O, along with.
I'm Wyatt Oakers.
And which is a rarity. It's just me and Wyatt today. Typically, you see me and Griffin, but Griffin's currently in a road trip from Seattle back to South Dakota, probably in Montana with no reception. So he may hop in. We don't know. If he does, he'll be online. But if not, it's just gonna be myself and Wyatt. Laurence is of course busy. Keegan has a date night or movie night with his girlfriend, and then of course Soup is playing Magic the Gathering, I think, or some sort of game.
This is a week where we could use Soup, but
I know. But everyone, thank you so much for joining us on today's podcast. I do want to actually quickly recap some other Gopher sports action that we had this past week.
Please do.
Before. So your Golden Gopher men's basketball team is currently 3-0. I say it again, 3-0 under first-year head coach Ben Johnson, winning the Asheville tournament or championship as well, beating Princeton 87-80 in a very epic double overtime comeback win. Again, I know a lot of beat writers and some of the writers here in Minnesota is concerned about the lack of depth behind, some of our currently five starters and the other 2-3 guys that we've been rotating in. But I think as long as we don't get played with an injury bug and we play to our best, I think we can have a reasonable season and maybe back to the tourney. We'll see. But I
don't think that we're going to the tourney, but we could see the NIT.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm cautiously optimistic about both of our basketball programs under new head coach Ben Johnson and third-year head coach Lindsey Whalen.
Yeah. But I will say, last podcast, when you weren't here, Lindsey Whalen did recruit a top 10 recruiting class, though.
I saw the class and I was extremely impressed.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm quite impressed with the recruitment that I've seen out of Ben Johnson so far as well.
So
he came in a really tough spot. So he's doing everything he can to put his program back in a winning position.
And especially for his first season. It kind of reminds, remember PJ in his first season where we're just trying to grasp at anything for within 2.5 weeks before early signing day. So, kudos to that. I think, I'm sorry, women's basketball, I'm not following what's going on over there, but besides a great recruiting class, I think we might be 1-1 for the season for women's basketball. I know they lost their first game, their home opener.
I know they won at least once.
Yeah.
So
at least 1-1 or 2-1, I'm not sure, but at least we won at least one and lost at least one. Men's hockey last weekend played Ohio State, splitting that game series, winning, dropping the first night 4-3. Unfortunately, we had a 2.2 score lead at the end of the first period, before giving it away in the third period, losing 4-3. But then also women's hockey sweep the weekend, winning both games as well. And mind you, Wyatt, as you and I remember from our freshman years, women's hockey, I think the first night had like 9+ points scored, and then the next night was 6 or 7, like in true dominating Gopher hockey fashion. Besides that, I think we may have a couple Gophers up in the running or alumni as well for the Olympics coming up this 2022 winter as well. Particularly a good chunk in the women's hockey team for the Olympics and a few other sports as well. So looking forward to the Olympics coming up too.
I can get behind that.
All right. So, Wyatt, recapping the game versus Iowa. So let me round off a few quick items here regarding that game. We lost the game 22-27. I'll save the quarterbacks for last, as we can segue that.
We're talking about the quarterbacks.
Yes.
Is there any way to ignore that?
Yeah. So we had we had an amazing day at rushing, man. 189 yards on the ground. Kai Thomas, our redshirt freshman, had 29 carries for 126 yards. Behind him, Bucko was at 17 carries for 80 yards. Kramer only had 1 for 4. And unfortunately, Tanner Morgan had 3 for -21. But overall, for a rushing game against a really good rushing defense. Again, Iowa, you like don't sleep on Iowa, but we did.
Iowa's defense is always, always, always good, and that's the strength of their team. So, it looks good when we can run the football against them.
Yeah. And it was a solid game too. Especially, I'm not sure if you watched the game fully, but during like the early part in the first and second quarters, right in the early game, we took advantage of some of the how should I say deficiencies of the Iowa defense. Was like they cannot move laterally, and which we did by doing a toss play, to the left or right to Kai Thomas or Bucko, and they can just get yards and break one tackle at the first level, and then either they get the first down or get a huge chunk yardage to get us second and third, second and fourth, then to third and 2, third and 1, like more manageable conversions rather than trying to have Tanner throw a third and 10, for example. So it was a great day for a rushing, and I'll say this, and we all unanimously agree. I think I see no concerns for a rushing offense for the remainder of the future if PJ stays. Like Mo Ibrahim, if he stays, he's great. If if Trey Potts come back, he is also a solid running back. Bryce Williams finally found his footing again after thrusting in the starting role, and then we have Kai Thomas and Bucko Irvin right behind him too. Like
I have no concerns about the talent of our run game. I do have concerns about being a one-dimensional team, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. As for other key pieces, receiving had an alright day too. Wyatt, surprisingly. Crab had 5 receptions for. Oh,
Who's
is this
it?
Griffin?
We got him.
I made it.
He made it.
Oh, you're back in South Dakota?
Yeah, I just got back.
Hey. Perfect timing. We are recapping the Iowa game right now live. So,
Unfortunate.
unfortunately, right now we're looking at receiving stats. So Crab had 5 receptions for 109 yards. Mike Brown-Stevens had 4 for 52. Cole Keeft had 2 for 48. Daniel Jackson was 1 for 8. Brevin was 2 for 6, and then Bucko had 1 for -3. Crab got the century mark in that game. And when he was
worth noting that Cole Keeft is one of the top-rated tight ends in the Big Ten right now.
I think Pro Football Focus, I think PFF.
Yeah.
Yep.
That might be NCAA wide even.
Yeah. Which is, I find it hard to believe, to be quite honest.
I mean, the big thing about that is that it's harder to see the blocking impact, and Cole Keeft is primarily a blocking tight end.
Yeah, he has.
But he's going out there and he's shown that he can do it all.
Yeah. Other items, defense had a solid, also played solid as well. Again, only keeping Iowa to 27 points. But one key thing, we kept them below 100 rushing yards. Tyler Goodson was, and that and that running back carousel that they have over there was pretty snuffed, like blocked out. The only times they scored touchdowns was when we had 2. I'd say were 2 egregious plays, like like pick routes essentially, where Padilla just beat Padilla, and then their receivers just beat our guys in coverage and then got touchdowns. But besides that, defense played a solid day, especially true freshman corner Justin Wally had, I'd say, a good day as well. And I love seeing Justin play. Jack Gibbons was also solid. That D line was doing their thing as well. Nothing.
Yeah, I've been with Justin Wally this season. I think that there's a bright future for that kid.
It's unfortunate too because that 72-yard pass by Padilla for the touchdown. Justin was in coverage, and he just was sold on the out route and just got beat inside and ended up turning around. Overall, a good game, but at the same time, that touchdown was the difference, and we knew it was going to come down to just one big play that could determine the game.
Yep. But then also
he'll grow from it. He'll learn and grow from that.
Yeah, and then another key thing too, Gophers also dominated the time of possession. We had 40 minutes of that game versus the 20 minutes Iowa had the entire time too. Unfortunately, the final score, as it says, we lost 22-27. PJ Fleck, under his tenure, is now 0-5 against Iowa. And our trophy case still remains mostly empty besides the governor's victory bell, which, if I remember correctly, it had to get repaired because apparently during the Minnesota game, I think it got damaged by when everyone rushed the field with the fans and players, if I recall correctly. But other than that, another year of not getting the bacon back. So the discussion point, and I'll get this one out of the way first. Wyatt has already said this all season. You're not satisfied on what we've seen as special teams the entire season.
No, and to be fair, early in this season, when things were looking like they were going to be starting to go up, I was content with where we were at. And now that we're seeing the same struggles that we've seen the past, well, essentially since we've been at the school, all these troubles are starting to come back up. You can't be happy with that. You can't be happy with missing field goals and extra points and with bad punting. And, you know, I just really miss the days of Santoso and M. Carpenter and, you know,
Peter
the days
Mortel.
where we had Peter Mortel, Jacob Herbers, when we had special teams we could trust.
And I think, too, is for the past, you know, several years, we've seen a cycle of just what I think could have been really good special teams players, but we can't just keep acquiring really good players and keep making the mistakes that we're making. I believe we have good special teams players, but if it's year 5 and these troubles are still resurfacing, that's when you have to look at the coaching and say, okay, we need to make some changes. Because I do believe we can have a very solid special teams unit at Minnesota, but we've just been cycling through so many players, and at some point,
who's our special teams coordinator right now?
Wow, Wenger.
Yeah, it might be time to say goodbye.
And if Laurent was here, he'd been preaching that since, I think, year 2, year 3?
Day 1.
Let's look at things. Scott Frost fired 4
assistants,
offensive coaching pieces. Why isn't PJ being looked at to do the same? At a certain point, you got to take responsibility for what's not changing.
Yeah. And also, too, if you remember, too, like the Board of Regents just signed off on PJ's extension, too, to increase not only his salary, but also the money pool for all of his assistants in that as well. So I'm not on the mindset that, like, I think we should part ways with Rob Wenger and use that extra money that we got from that contract extension to try to get maybe a better special teams coach. It could be a 1 or 2 year rental, kind of like when we had Ed Warner, but like it could be advantageous for the program. But again, I don't know. Again, I know Griffin mentioned this before. PJ likes his coaches to be like great people, not just on the field, but off the field, and be great teachers and motivators. And I think that's kind of like when we had Rob Smith a couple of seasons ago when that happened. So I feel like I feel like it's feeling like a Rob Smith situation, but it's taking longer for Rob Wenger. But I don't know. But yeah, kicking woes and everything. But yes, we are not happy. We have not been happy with special teams. Now here's the next discussion piece that fans have been concerned about. Even like fans are like that I know that was watching the game, and they're non-Gopher fans, by the way. Like they just live in Minnesota, and this has to be like the big game they're watching on Saturday. A lot of them on Facebook just been like, Tanner Morgan is trash can emoji, like on a lot of them. So I'll start off with that. I'll start off. Tanner is not Tanner that we saw in 2019, and certainly not the one we've seen in 2020, despite the COVID year. I don't know where to take it from there. I know Wyatt has some discussion points. I don't know about you, Griff, but whoever wants to go first, go ahead regarding Tanner Morgan and our quarterback play.
Wyatt, you're first.
Yeah, I'll take it. There's very little to be happy with. Is the reality of the situation. We're running the ball more than all but 3 teams in the country, and that's the service academies. And, the offense has sort of become a one-dimensional unit because Tanner's not throwing the ball like the Tanner Morgan we saw 2 years ago. And right now, we don't have any explanation why that is. All we know is that PJ keeps putting him in games. And I don't know if that speaks to what he's seeing out of Tanner in practice, if Tanner looks sharp in practice and then just isn't putting that practice play on the field, or if there really is a problem in our quarterback room where we don't trust any of our quarterbacks to come in and, show what they're worth more than just letting Tanner ride it out. But at a certain point, something has to give. Either we have to see Tanner start to, play like we saw him play in 2019, or we have to give someone else a shot.
Yeah, Tanner Morgan, I think this year should finish the season as our starting quarterback, no question. Right now, he is our best chance at winning. I know I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I want to see him throw the ball in somewhere in the 20 to 25 range. He tried attempting 30 passes this week, and I think now that he's throwing more, he's kind of exposed himself as he can throw and go 10 for 13 for 140 yards. But when you ask him to do anything more than that, he's only completing 50% of his passes, if that. So Tanner Morgan and our offense, again, like you said, Wyatt, one-dimensional. Only our running backs can really run. If this offense really wants to keep running the ball, they need a dual-threat quarterback. That starts with Cole Kramer. Cole Kramer's a better runner, I think, than he is a passer, but we need a quarterback who can do both. They're looking at a Jacob Newth, I believe is his name, out here in South Dakota. PJ's been to one of his football games. He's a dual threat for the Harrisburg Tigers in one of the best divisions in the state. And he is balling out. He can run, he can pass. A little jittery in the pocket, but that can be coached. But from moving forward, when we're talking 2022, a quarterback change needs to happen in order for this program to be successful. The run game is going to benefit from a mobile quarterback. If the quarterback can run, they'll loosen up the defense a little bit because they know they can't just stack 8 in the box every time and hold all our running backs to a 5-yard gain.
And I'm just not convinced we'll see it. I get that feeling in my gut that PJ will go into the offseason and he'll say, all right, Zach's the next guy up. And Zach's not going to be any more of a mobile quarterback than Tanner was.
Right.
It's a reservation that I have about PJ, and I hope he proves me wrong. I hope PJ goes out there and gets Cole Kramer in the shape to be starting next season. But I'm not convinced that that's what we're going to see.
Maybe this isn't the right thing to compare it to, but it kind of has me thinking that this Minnesota offense wants to try and build a Tom Brady-esque quarterback where he passes the ball and hands the ball off all the time, and pass from the pocket, and that's it. That's not going to help our program if we want to run the ball
the way that we do.
And I will mention this too. Now that we've seen PJ for now 5 seasons at the helm, and the kind of team that we want, Wyatt, you mentioned it best. We run the ball right now 4th most in the country, right behind Navy, Army, and Air Force, our military academies, which is very Big Ten-esque back, say,
it's old school Big Ten.
Yeah.
Running the ball 70% of the time is, like 1940s era Big Ten football.
Yeah. So, and I feel even the commentators on the broadcast mention it's very trestle ball as well. Like you run the ball, you manage the clock, and I think PJ, I know he likes to mention his roots. Again, he's a Greg Schiano, Jim Tressel guy in terms of his coaching carousel, where he has come from and coached with or coached for. But I think we need to. I think if Soup was here, Soup will say fire Mike Sanford, our OC and quarterbacks coach. I would fully support.
I think that would be a fair take.
Yeah, and I would wholly support in the case of Soup. For me, I would not hire an OC intern. I know Wyatt off air, you had someone someone else in mind for that, but for me, I think we should hire outside of the program, who can bring in a fresh mindset. Because remember, we love we love with what Kirk Schrocker brought was we did what PJ wants, which is the trestle ball style of offense. Control the clock, time of possession, and pound the ball right with our running backs. But also we use that to our advantage with play action and RPOs. Because remember, we threw the most slant passes through the RPO, and mind you, of course, we had a Crab, Tyler Johnson, and Rashad Bateman as our as our top receivers, and before that trickled in was Demetrius Douglas back then, along with some of our tight ends here and there. But Kirk Schrocker's offense is what we wanted to do, was playing modern plays such as RPOs, play action, and spread offense concepts like Urban Meyer preached during his time with Big Noon Kickoff on Fox. About if there's too many men in the box, use that to your advantage and throw the ball, right? So if we do fire Mike Sanford, or he does, or we somehow part ways with it, which I see a slim chance of that happening because PJ is very loyal to his assistants, as we've seen in the past. I would rather have us go with a coach outside of the program, and of course, I agree with you guys. We can, with the current quarterbacks, we either someone steps up to be that dual threat that can throw and run. Or in this case, right now, who's going to be redshirted? Athen Kalamakalis, the 4-star recruit from Illinois that we recruited from last recruiting class, is right now redshirting. Maybe give him put him under the fire, because he was, I think, came out from Illinois, one of the top rated dual threats from that state. And of course, like Griffin said, what was his name? Griffin from South Dakota.
Jacob Newth, who's also a solid, a great prospect, also 4 stars as a passer and rusher as well. So we have options. We have, I'd say, a quarterback room. It's just I feel like we're being hindered by this style of coaching and offense that PJ wants to run. But I think you mentioned it, why you had someone else internally in mind if, say, we parted ways with Mike Sanford.
We know that our running back room is fantastic. So in my opinion, if we're not going outside the program, if we don't have a target in mind outside there, I want to see what we can do from that area. If we can pull our running backs coach, what's his name again?
Kenny Burns.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah,
Kenny Burns.
If we can pull Kenny Burns up and see if he has a creative mindset to sort of change how the Gopher football program plays offense. And maybe he doesn't. Maybe that's not the answer. But, it's worth exploring our options when we know we have a fantastic coach in that room. one of the best in this country.
And what is nice too about the Gophers is we can all appreciate running the ball well, and I think that really separates the Gophers from when we have out of non-conference games. Like you watch our bowl games with Georgia Tech, who runs the ball, Washington State, couple other teams that we've played in bowl, Auburn even. It's like nobody expects the ball to be run out of conference. Like the Gophers, it's football's becoming more of a passing game. That's just how it is. But when we match up in bowl games with non-conference people, I think why we are so successful in bowl games and why we win is because of our running game. We test every single D-line we face at every single level, whether it's linemen, linebackers, or DBs. So, but you got to change in conference too. You need to adapt. You need to pass the ball. Tanner Morgan can pass the ball, but not consistently. So if you're going to win in the Big Ten, we need to pass more. But if we're going to, keep going and winning 6, 7, 8 games every year, and we want to keep running the ball and just win these mediocre bowls, and that if that's their goal, then so be it. But that is one thing that does favor the Gophers in out-of-conference play.
All right. Anything else to discuss about our quarterback situation and our current state of the Gopher offense?
I'm sure we'll find more next week.
Probably. All right, next up, we have 2 more games for the regular season, guys. 2 more, 1 away game and 1 game at home. And this next game for this Saturday, November the 20th, will be in Bloomington versus the Indiana Hoosiers. This rattle off some quick things about the Hoosiers. They're currently not having a great season, to put it lightly. They're currently 2-8 overall, and 0-7 in conference play. In their last game last weekend on the 13th, Rutgers shellacked them 38-3 in Bloomington. The only bright spot of that game was like their shirtless fans at the second level of the stadium, which was I don't know, I had a chuckle watching. Versus our Gophers, which is 6-4 overall with a 4-3 conference record. The game will air on Big Ten Network at a 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time kickoff.
Not a 2:30.
Then in terms of the FPI from ESPN, are favoring the Gophers 68% versus 32% to Indiana. And the spread has its favoring the Gophers -7 or -7.5, depending on the outlet for sports betting, but -7, -7.5 for the game, with over under being a 43.5 as of today, the 17th. So I will start off with this. Wyatt got me on this train during the preseason. I expected better from the Hoosiers for the 2021 season. Very disappointed in where they're at now. I think they have the right staff. They have the players. I think they've been hit with, poor play, injury-ridden.
The big thing is that injury bug biting Michael Penix Jr. again.
Yep.
Because Tom Allen's not to be slept on. He is a quality college head coach, and Indiana should feel good about him. But when you can't keep the guy who you got running your offense healthy, you're going to struggle. And not having Michael Penix, and I think they're now down to their 3rd string guy. I think the backup is hurt as well now. You're going to have problems when you run into a situation where you don't know who's going to be throwing the football any given week.
Mm-hmm. That's all I have. Besides losing the Rutgers, I watched the game overall, and I will say this: some of the commenters and beat writers post game said Indiana just gave up overall, like on themselves and on the season. I didn't really see that. Like I saw Tom Allen and his staff just coaching as hard as they can, just trying to make something work. They're putting in new quarterbacks. I think one of them was like a true freshman, who will make mistakes, as obvious. Hasn't had much starting reps. And just trying to find a way to win. They're trying to salvage the season so they can work on it for the future. So I really don't agree with what these writers and reporters have said about Indiana so far. Again, they're not doing so great this season, which is pretty obvious. Record, what I see from the record and their stats, but I think this is a team that can probably bounce back next season and win, rattle off 6 to 8 wins probably. So,
and obviously this season is 2 weeks from being over. 8 losses, they're out of the running for them. But their season was sort of over for them when the quarterback who makes their offense went down. And I don't think that the fight has gone out, but I think that they're put into a situation where they're gonna struggle, and it's not gonna be pretty to watch them play football.
Yeah, and they had 3 quarterbacks that entire game, guys. McCulley, Gremmel, and Tuttle combining 18 of 42 completions for 177 yards total that game. And then, of course, their more experienced receiver, Freifogel, only had 5 catches for 51 yards, unfortunately.
What about the tight end, Hendershot?
Only had 2 for 11, unfortunately.
Yeah, because they've got 2 dangerous playmakers in the passing game, and they just when Penix went down, they really lost a lot of the ability to get the ball to those guys and let them make plays.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I have, unless Wyatt or Griffin, you guys have anything else that you saw from Indiana so far this season or from the last game that comes to mind about this current Indiana team?
They allow a lot of, or I wouldn't say a lot, but a very decent amount of pass and rush yards. So I think we can attack. So I think as the Gophers, we can attack them on both spots there. But I see us running the ball about 80% of the time yet again. Average, they give up about 140 for rushing yards, and I see Kai Thomas running that by himself. So that and a couple of 30, 40-yard touchdown passes, and that'll be about the Hoosiers I expect, hopefully.
All right. Anything else before we get to some keys of the game? All right. So I think for me, for this game, I don't want to say I'm used to this or been seeing this constantly, but I think key to game, we run the ball like we always do. Either be the open from the outside zone, inside zone game, screen passes, even the shuffle passes that we did against Iowa that worked a few times as well. Incorporating the running backs into essentially what we are is a one-dimensional team in the run game, but somehow make it work for our 2 running backs, and maybe was it Derek LeCaptain, who's our emergency running back, as our spare, and Cole Kramer, obviously, at Wildcat. So I'm expecting, at least for this key, we're going to run the ball as we always do, and just keep it clean and don't be cute. That's all I ask, because essentially right now we are already bowl eligible. We have 6 wins already on the season. But I also want us to, win more games, either including this Saturday and even next Saturday. I know Wisconsin's going to be a tough game, but I want us to go to a better bowl game as well. Because right now, I think we're currently if the season ended today, and then looking at some speculation ahead for the remaining games of the season, we're right now predicted, which we'll discuss later. Right now, Pinstripe Bowl esque, what I'm reading into, or even Las Vegas Bowl, or maybe I think I saw one for Detroit. So I say for me, key to game, just don't be cute. Play what goes best for our team, and we will surely win the game. Except for special teams. I'm expecting the offense would get us close to field goal range, and then we just whiff a pooch kick at 30 for 20 yards. But that's mine.
Man, maybe the game should not be don't kick the ball, but
All right. Any other keys for you guys?
I would just say score the first couple score on the first couple drives that we get the ball, so we can establish our game. I know it sounds kind of cliche, but I want to either receive or get a turnover, and I want to score touchdowns in the red zone and not just kick another 30-yard trick field goal. I want a comfortable 2-possession lead at halftime, bare minimum. Establish our game, because if Indiana scores first, and they are stopping our offense in the first quarter, I could definitely see them and the Gophers not trying to change their way, and they'll just keep trying to play the same game they want to, and become unsuccessful. So score first, score touchdowns. Those are my big things.
I think the big thing to add to that is defense. You got to keep them out of the end zone as much as you can. And, it's not that Indiana has a super high-powered offense right now. Obviously, with the quarterback carousel that they've got going on, they're in, this weird purgatory state in their passing game. So we know that they're not the high-powered offense they could be with Penix. But, we have to control that and not let them just put the ball out to Freifogel or Hendershot, because if they can get the ball to their playmakers, they will make this a football game.
All right. Anything else? All right.
70%, man. That's it.
All right. Well, score predictions. So preseason, I said win, and then you two said losses. So I'll go first. I'll say we win.
Why? That's your fault that I said loss.
Well, when we said that, the Penix Jr. was healthy.
Hey, actually, before I say the scores, right now, all three of us, in terms of preseason predictions, we're all 7-3 right now. Like the only three games all three of us were wrong were Bowling Green, Northwestern, because we all said we're going to lose at Northwestern, and winning, and we all said we'll win against Illinois, but then of course we get slacked that game. So we're going to 7-3. So right now for this last 2 weeks, it's going to be dependent on what we predicted preseason, because like essentially our prediction spreadsheet has been the same until our 10th game of the season. So I just want to keep mention that, but I'm gonna say we win 27-17. I think PJ somehow we let them score on us, and we still take the win, 10-point lead, 27-17. And if we do lose, 6-9.
Nice.
All right, who's next for predictions?
Griff, you want to take it?
Well, I mean, I'd really love to change my answer, but I'll stick with DL here for now. Let's do... Man. I think Indiana, even though they're only averaging about 18.6 points per game, I'll still give them 22 to the Gophers 17.
All right, and what happens if we win?
When we win, it is going to be 30-20.
All right, Wyatt, you're next.
Listen, I'm going to give us a win. And I'm gonna say it's going to be close, but we're going to pull it out, 20-17.
Okay.
Ooh.
What with the loss?
I'm going to say 21-13 would be a loss.
And it's gonna be Tanner throwing a pick at the end of the game, trying to tie
Yeah,
it up.
like a pick six right at the close.
Yep. All right. Well, that's it for our recap and preview for Iowa and Indiana, respectively. So next up, next segment, I want to discuss bowl games, guys. So quick items about bowl games right now. There, besides the playoff games, which likely a Big Ten team will get into that. There's 8 affiliated bowl games for the Big Ten. There were 9 prior to the season, but unfortunately one got canceled, and that is the Red Box Bowl in Santa Clara. That's the one that takes place in Levi Stadium for the 49ers. I think that's in response to what happened, particularly for that San Francisco area had more restrictions in California. Not just to say it's up, but that particular county. So that game was canceled for the second year straight. It was canceled back in 2020, canceled again this year. So now it's only 8 games. So I'll rattle them off from top to bottom, and they're actually organized by date, pretty much. So bowl game number 1 is the Rose Bowl in Pasadena versus a Pac-12 team. Number 2 is the Citrus Bowl versus an SEC team. 3 is Outback Bowl versus SEC. 4 is Las Vegas Bowl versus Pac-12, which is a new bowl for us. I think it's taking place at the new Raiders Stadium in Vegas. 5th is the Music City Bowl in Tennessee versus the SEC. Number 6 is the Pinstripe Bowl in New York versus the ACC. 7 is the Guaranteed Rate Bowl versus the Big 12. And then lastly is the Quick Lane Bowl versus the MAC in Detroit. And in terms of some of the articles I've seen so far, I said earlier in the podcast, a lot of people have been saying Pinstripe Bowl in New York, assuming the Gophers only win 7 games of our total record. Others I've seen Las Vegas Bowl, and even 1 or 2 predictions here and there that say, oh, maybe Detroit again. So yeah, thoughts?
I thought the Quick Lane Bowl was not affiliated with us anymore, but maybe I guess I was wrong here. I would say if we win our last 2 games, we would go to the Music City Bowl. I think we're still going to be considered for it if we have 7 wins, but yeah, I can definitely see us going to the Pinstripe Bowl. I think with again, out of conference matchups, really with any of these conferences, the Gophers are going to match up very well. I mean, if we can beat an Auburn team, they're a pretty solid team, especially with our run game. I'm not necessarily too worried on which bowl we're going to go to. I think regardless, we're going to match up very well.
I don't see us going to the Music City Bowl. I'll say that I don't see us being better than a 7-5 team at this point. And that's harsh, but, I think that rings true of how the season has played out. And, that means we probably end up in New York. Or worse.
But say if this happens, right? So we assume this. So right now, Ohio State is the favorite in the Big Ten to go to the playoffs, which is one of the playoff bowls. Which is in terms of we were doing a list like from 1 to 8 here. Pinstripe Bowl is like where the Gophers will likely go. But say if whoever is representing the Big Ten West and Big Ten Championship somehow upsets and wins against Ohio State, I wouldn't be surprised if the Gophers go to the Guaranteed Rate Bowl or the Quick Lane Bowl. And I know for our fans and some members of the marching band, going back to the Quick Lane Bowl again, was it 2015 when all 3 of us were rookies in the marching band, and then during our senior season in 2018 where we won the Axe as well. So I know it's gonna be a Debbie Downer for many people, but with the way how things are shaking out, and I get it's just hypothetical, I wouldn't be surprised if you went to like one of the more lower tier bowls. But again, it depends on how many 6-6 teams from the Big Ten that we have as well, because right now, I will mention it. Rutgers is 1 game away from bowl eligibility. Of course, Indiana and Northwestern are completely out of the picture, and I believe Nebraska is trying to fight for 2 more games to get bowl eligible. So,
Is Nebraska?
say it again.
Are they actually in a position to be bowl eligible?
Let me double check. Okay, so here is the teams that are already bowl eligible: Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, and Purdue. The other teams that are fighting for a spot for bowl eligibility is going to be Maryland, who's currently 5-5, Rutgers, who is also currently 5-5. And my bad, actually, Illinois is 4-6 right now, with Nebraska and Northwestern currently at 3-7 both. So never mind, Nebraska's out of the picture for bowl eligibility.
Illinois is actually in it.
Say again.
Illinois is actually in it. 4-6. They could still theoretically.
Yeah, they could win 2 more games, but I don't know. Let me double check who's on their schedule quickly here.
Probably.
They have Iowa and Northwestern left.
Oh, no. Who knows?
But yeah.
Apparently, crap game. So.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for bowl stuff. So hopefully, my fingers crossed that we win out for the remainder of the season and go to a better bowl. But just gotta think ahead here. I know why I said this off air, but I wish Soup was here to talk about Oklahoma last weekend.
Oh my God, they should be embarrassed about how they played this weekend.
I don't know, Griff, did you see that? I know you were on a road trip the entire time.
What did I see?
The Oklahoma game?
No, I did not see much of any this weekend.
Like I said, it was embarrassing for Oklahoma. They should really not feel good about where they're at. It's they looked like they were coasting to the Big Ten title, and then they get shown up by a Baylor team that has also played very well.
Yep.
All season,
losing 27-14.
Of losses, but a win against Oklahoma basically eliminates Oklahoma from playoff contention.
Yep.
Even if they win off.
And don't forget, Oklahoma has 2 games that one is against Iowa State, and then their last team will be their in-state rival, Oklahoma State, who's currently ranked 9 in the nation.
Games they could lose.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa State hasn't been playing like the Iowa State team we expected at the start of the season, but they're not to be slept on. And Oklahoma State has been on the money this season. Oklahoma State's a threat.
Mm-hmm. But other than that, anything else? Any hot takes? Any discussion points you want to bring up? Or you want to wrap up the podcast here tonight, boys?
I don't know if I got much else to contribute myself.
Yeah, I'm out. I don't have any takes unless y'all have something spicy to bring up, but
I'm really interested to see how the playoffs continue to develop.
Yeah.
I think Cincy's going to miss the playoffs because I think 2 SEC teams are going to get in. I think Oregon's going to get in, and I think the Big Ten champion's going to get in. And, that's not fair, but
that's life.
Would be cool to see Oregon lose again. That would change the picture.
Yeah. Didn't they lose to Stanford?
Yeah,
earlier
it was
in the
an
season?
ugly loss.
Yeah.
But a 2-loss Oregon team, can the committee justify that over Cincinnati?
Yeah, probably.
I'd say it'd be hard if they're on a 10-game win streak right now.
Yep. All right. Anything else? Going once? Going twice? All right, time to end the podcast. Well, thank you for everyone for watching and listening to today's podcast of us recapping the Iowa game, previewing Indiana, discussing bowl games coming up, along with, of course, some of our other tidbits that we talked about, particularly with Oklahoma. But other than that, thank you so much for listening and watching, and we'll see you guys next week to recap the Indiana game and preview our last game of the regular season versus the Wisconsin Badgers to get Paul Bunyan's axe back at home at Huntington Bank Stadium. Or if you're old like us, it will always and forever shall be TCL Bank Stadium, but whatever. But other than that, thank you for sticking with us, and enjoy the rest of your week and weekend, and we'll see you all soon. And again, my name is Jason.
I'm Wyatt.
Griffin. Oh, man. And I'm Griffin.
And we'll see y'all next time. And
Oh.
Oh.